Landlords continue to dominate the UK headlines, but what happens if they continue to sell up? With over 30,000 landlords exiting the rental market, we may be about to find out because the impact could be significant. In this video, I'm going to break down why landlords are selling up. I'm also going to give you key insights to the housing market, but also the rental sector. Make sure you stay tuned. To understand this better, let me take you back to 2016, when Sarah, an old school landlady, had a handful of properties and she was making a decent profit for quite a few years. But then came George Osborne era, and between sort of 2017 and 2020 was the implementation of Section 24. Then came the Tenant Fees Act of 2019, banning landlords and agents from charging any type of fees from tenants. And this did hit a lot of landlords, at least temporarily. But Sarah, being an experienced and savvy landlady, she did adjust, but only to find a few years later that inflation hit hard, but also those mortgage rates hit the roof. Now, this was something that Sarah was really struggling to manage. Despite the challenges, Sarah is determined to make things work and navigate the ever-changing property market, which brings us into 2024, and of course Labour comes into government and introduces the Renters' Right Bill. The most scary thing for Sarah is the removal of Section 21, but also the tax hikes, or the potential tax hikes, towards the end of this month. This is the last straw for Sarah, and she decides to sell up. Almost half of landlords have sold or are planning to sell their properties, according to a recent survey. In fact, 30% of them have either sold or listed their property in the last year, while 17% are considering selling in the next 12 months. With legislation such as the Renters' Rights Bill and the removal of Section 21 is driving 56% of these decisions, along of course with energy efficiency rules, rising mortgage rates, arrears and tax changes are also contributing. And get this, over half of letting agencies, that's 58%, are reporting fewer properties, with 37% noting that there is a significant drop. And this is all while tenant competition is becoming even more intense. Looking at key figures in the housing market, we can see that as of August 2024, house prices, the average of UK, stands at £267,100. That's an inflation of 0.7%. And looking towards the end of the year, we can expect that to be at 2.5%. And this is partly because buyer demand has surged by 26%, and this is supported by the lowest mortgage rate seen in 15 months. Even though sales agreed are up by 25%, and we can see this is even higher in regions like the Midlands, but also the North East, up by 30%. To put things into context, what we have seen in the last year is certainly a transaction crash and not necessarily a price crash. So a lot of sellers out there I know are welcoming this recent shift. And those landlords who have been on the fence perhaps have decided this is the right time to sell with the demand. Current mortgage rates are averaging 4.3%, and this is on a 5-year fix on a 75% loan to value. Now this is down from 5.5% from last year. And of course, these mortgage rates are driving activity, especially with those buyers who have larger equity. If you're finding this video helpful, make sure you hit that like button. It really does motivate me in shooting more of these videos for you. As you may know, property is hyper-local, and if we dive in deep from a regional point of view, we're going to see house price growth vary, especially when we look at North compared to the South. Northern Ireland is at 5.5%. When we look at the South, we've actually seen some declines and dips in Southeast and also the Southwest. This is mainly due to affordability pressures, especially in places like London, where house prices are going to be more expensive in comparison to other parts of the country. And when it comes to supply of properties, it is on the rise. In fact, it's 12% up. Interestingly, 32% of those are chain-free. And that's going to be because of landlords, but also those with second homes who are selling up due to those tax changes. And those are especially going to be when we look at Cornwall, is up by 40%, and this is keeping up prices in check. Check this, an article from Rightmove last month pointed out that 1 in 5 properties on the market for sale had previously been rented out. That is 18%, and that's comparison to 8% in 2010. And that's just a national average. But if we look at hotspots that are all over the UK, especially when we look at London, almost a third, that's 29%, are on the market for sale that had previously on the market for rent. Those are big numbers. And simultaneously, whilst private landlords are selling up, what we do know is institutions, banks, and big commercial companies are buying properties in bulk. And of course, all of these projects have been given a green light by the UK government. And could this be a conspiracy to push out smaller private landlords and in with big corporates? Leave me a comment below. Let me know your views. And looking ahead, we can expect mortgage rates to stabilise around about that 3 to 4% by 2025, and of course supporting that buyer demand. One thing that needs to be checked, especially expectation when it comes to sellers, is to manage that price, because there is affordability issue, and this is despite household income continuing to increase, but sellers will need to manage that expectation. And for landlords, there is good news, at least for those who can spot opportunities. Hear me out. Despite these big corporate companies moving into the rental sector here in the UK, what they are going to be doing is raising those standards, better facilities and better services. Now, this is a great opportunity for at least those professional landlords to increase that and be in the market. The thing here is adjust your strategy. Buy to let is not over. Far from it. We're seeing a lot of landlords actually scaling up. You need the right structure and the right systems in place. For renters, the imbalance between supply and demand in the private rented sector is set to continue way into 2025, according to Zoopla. And of course, we have seen sort of that demand slowing down, and this is because of the fading effects of the pandemic, but also the mortgage rates easing off are helping some buyers into the housing market and buying their home. However, we are expected to see rents increase between 3 and 4%. And if you want to dive in deep into corporate companies buying properties, make sure you check out my video. And whether you're a buyer, seller, or landlord, to navigate the current property market, make sure you subscribe to my channel.